Hi everybody, thank you so much for joining us for a new session. We are here excited to have someone with us. I will let Yvette introduce him.
So we have our guest, Jorge. He is a childhood friend of mine. We go way back since kindergarten. So Jorge, I will let you introduce yourself. Who are you? What do you do?
Sure. Yeah. Hi. No, thank you for having me here. As Yvette said, yeah, we go way back to kindergarten. I've my background is, my background is actually in really the restaurant business. I've been in the restaurant business since, I think I was 13 years old when I first started working
Wow.
as a busser at my dad's restaurant. I just, there was something about it, or I just loved the busyness of the restaurant. Moving forward, fast forward to today, now I own my own restaurant along with my brother. So, I have my career that I actually went to college for. I still do civil engineering. And I've been doing that for about 11 years already. So
Wow.
ever since I graduated college, I went to Cal Poly Pomona for engineering. It feels like engineering is my part-time job, and this is my full-time job now,
For sure, it's full-time.
yeah.
We're also on location at this restaurant. So
Yes,
Yeah.
The setting is different, so that's where we are.
yes.
Promote your business. So
Yeah, so my business here is Arts Corner Cafe. It's a breakfast house. We have tons of breakfast options, American, Mexican dishes, French toast, waffles, chilaquiles.
there's cinnamon rolls,
cinnamon
either
rolls.
pan dulce, amazing.
Yeah.
Chilaquiles, so good.
They're all good, comfort food. We have a full bar, so we make cocktails, micheladas, mimosas, all that good stuff. But when I was in high school, I'm sure you remember, Yvette. I played baseball my entire life. So I was always very competitive in a way, where I would see something and my brain would say, well, why don't you do it this way to be better or more efficient or faster, I always kind of analyze things like that. And that mentality, got me where I'm at today, right? Before I started this here with my brother, our family has always been in the restaurant business. My two other brothers have another restaurant. I had always said to myself, no one's really doing, kind of like a brunch style Midtown Ventura.
Yeah.
Obviously my brother's restaurant, which is Two Trees, they're doing an awesome job out there on the East End, right? But nothing in Midtown Ventura was happening like that. And I was like, why? Like, people come to Ventura and they go to Midtown, they go to the beach, right? There isn't really any breakfast spots that have, where you can really brunch, where you can have a cocktail, you can have a michelada for breakfast, So I was scouting locations for, quite some time.
So you already knew you wanted to get
Oh,
into
yeah. I knew I wanted to open up my own restaurant when, I want to say when I was like playing baseball at Ventura College.
Wow.
So this is back in like 2010,
Okay. So at that point, you already had your BA in.
I at that time I was at Ventura College, so I
Oh,
still didn't have
I
didn't have my BS in engineering yet because I went to Ventura College, and then I transferred to Cal Poly Pomona where I did engineering. So, my brain kind of works very technical. That's my background as an engineer,
Yeah.
right? It just kind of rolls over, and I always try to look for solutions wherever there's a problem, or something that's not, efficient,
Yeah.
right? I think there's always room for improvement. There's many ways on, how to, I mean, there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh,
And, yeah. So I have always kind of thought to myself, like, I have a running list of like, these are the things I want to do once I open up a restaurant. And, I had a specific audience that I was targeting.
Yeah.
Before we took over here, this restaurant, Arts, man, I don't know if you've ever came here before, but like,
I'm a Midtown girly,
right,
so
yeah.
I'm very familiar with the
Right.
area. And
yeah, so the crowd that would come here was, I mean,
Elderly
like
people.
anywhere from 50 to like 90-year-olds.
Yeah.
Right, and we slowly started losing those customers when we first took over because we started making changes.
Yeah.
Right, no one, well, at least those.
Because they started dying.
Yeah, no, well, some.
You
some
took
fell
it
off
way to the
yeah.
other side.
You're like, who is this guy? We started losing customers because they didn't like change, right? So they were used to certain ways. It was a type of like crowd that would sit here for like 6 hours drinking your coffee. It's like, well, I'm not making any money.
Yeah.
I didn't get this to please them who were, taking up my table. So
Bro, that's the list of when we go to dinner. Remember one time we were
as long as you spend the money, it's all good.
Keep
But
buying.
these people would spend like $13.
Yeah.
These people would spend $13, and it's like, well, man, minimum wage is $16. It's like
Yeah.
I'm gonna be in the negative.
Yeah.
So, but even to start, we had a specific audience, right? And we slowly started making changes. They started leaving, but the new people started coming.
Where they
Younger
was-
generation,
uh-huh.
right? So like, out with the old, in with the new. It
Yeah.
was literally that, and man, we got so much pushback in the beginning. It was tough. There was times where I was like, man, like what the hell did I sign up for?
Yeah.
Sometimes I wished at the time, like I should have just started a brand new restaurant, right? Because people have no expectations. They're gonna go into a new restaurant, and they like it, right? But here, it's like you're changing something completely. Like I mean, it's a full-on 180 for as a change here,
Yeah.
right? So, I remember once, so the bar, the way the bar was here, it was a tiny bar that could only accommodate like 3 or 4 seats. And the first thing I said was like, I'm gonna get rid of that, stupid little bar and put a big bar. And I
Yeah.
remember I shared that information with a couple customers, and they were like, a bar? Like, where are you gonna do that? Like, you can't do that here. And I'm like, only if you knew. Like, I was already thinking like, dimensions, and I had already like, that was already drawn out.
Yeah.
So, we've come a long ways now to where we're at now, but it for sure hasn't been like an easy ride,
Yeah.
So
how did you remain so positive and because experiencing a lot of pushback, I would imagine that's discouraging because especially starting something new.
Right.
Yes, you have the history and work experience, but I feel like being in Ventura, there's
Yeah, it's
people
tough.
that are established and they're stuck in their ways, especially when
Mm-hmm.
you're dealing with like elderly people. How did you still
Yeah.
persevere?
So I was a strong believer in my vision, right? And I stuck with it. And I'm like, you know what? I just gotta just write it out.
Yeah.
And I knew the ride was gonna be bumpy in the beginning because of the crowd here, right? But my goal was to get them out, get new people in, right? Yeah, it was discouraging in the beginning, right? Because it's like you're working and then, you see your numbers, and during the transition, you're losing people, right? But you're not gaining new people as fast as you're losing them.
Yeah.
It's more of like you gaining a few people here and there, right? But I think I just, had my, my eyes on the prize, and, I compared it to anything, when someone tells me no, I can't do it, I want to do it even more. So I as a civil engineer, I have my license here in the state of California, which is the professional engineer's license, the PE, and it's not an easy exam, right? There's 3 exams that you have to take. At the time, it was one 8-hour exam and then 2 4-hour exams, so a total of 16 hours, right? And I failed it. I failed it once, I failed it twice, and every time I failed, I was like, oh man, like I'm gonna get you. You know, it was like chasing. I was just chasing, like I was chasing a dream, right?
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, like no one's gonna know the times you failed. They're not gonna know you for that. They're gonna know me as, you know, Jorge Rubalcaba PE, right? Like no one knows that I failed my exam twice, right? So I compared it to now they do, right? This is where you guys edit the video.
We'll mute it.
So I compared it here, except here, you know, you've got a lot to lose, right? But knowing, you know, being from Ventura, I know the crowd. It's a very, very specific crowd, right? There's just so, like, something about people from Ventura and allowing or being introduced to a new business. You know, it's very, it's you're kind of on edge. You know, it's like, are they gonna like it or are they not? But, you know, I had seen the problem, right? I'm like, well, there's a problem. You know, the problem is there's no brunch, there's no comfort food. You know, my wife and I, we travel a lot, and you know, we would travel around the world, and so we would, you know, get ideas from like. You know, when we were in Italy, when we were in Iceland, when we were in Jordan, like little ideas like that, and we started putting them kind of together, you know. So before all this, we had like a vision board, right? And we had goals, you know, and I think that's why I never gave up, because, you know, when I took over the restaurant or was in the process, it was never, what if it doesn't work out? It was like, it's gonna work out.
Yeah.
Right? It's gonna work out, because that's how much I want it, right? So like my dream was own a restaurant, you know, and I would dream it so much that it finally became a reality, you know? So, and that's what I tell people. It's like, man, if you dream something so much, think about it every day, like it's eventually gonna come true. Like you're gonna, because you're slowly working, you're manifesting it. You're working towards those goals, small, you know, baby steps. I mean, it took me like, you know, I don't know, since 2010 that I knew I wanted to open up a restaurant, and then we opened it up in 2022. So like 12 years later, it finally became a thing, you know. But yeah, that's kind of like, you know, the risk you take, right? You know you're gonna lose people. And I was okay with that, right? I was okay with losing a certain crowd here, you know, but I was focused on the bigger picture. Like, I'm gonna lose them, but then new people are gonna come in.
Yeah.
You know, so, yeah.
I admire you, because honestly, you've always been a hustler and a hard worker. Like,
thank you.
Eso sé que viene ya de herencia. Right, because it's your entire family.
Yeah, you know, we come from the small rancho, right? And then, you know, I think everyone comes out here with a dream, right? Is to live that American dream, and you know, there's so many people that come here with nothing, and you know, you see them now, and they have got like construction businesses and landscaping businesses, and these are like blue collar people, you know, and they're like killing it. So. You know, my dad was like, he was like the biggest inspiration, because I remember like getting a degree in college, and you know, I'm like, yeah, like, look, I'm making this amount of money, you know, with my engineering degree, you know, and then I found out how much he was making. I'm like you don't even know how to speak English. Like, how is that possible? You know, and but he was always kind of like. He was the one that I was like, all right, I gotta be like him or be better. That's always kind of been like my motto, like be as good or better, you know, because that's what pushes you. That's what drives you, you know. You always surrounding yourself with the right people. If you surround yourself with successful people, by default, you're gonna want to be successful, right? Because you're gonna see their success. You're gonna want to be like them. But if you hang out with the wrong crowd, then you're slowly gonna be like them. Yeah, you're gonna become that. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
So did you go into engineering knowing that you were going to do this? Like it helps to have a
Yeah.
background in that too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I knew, as a matter of fact, when I was at VC, I was questioning engineering, because I was never a math person. I was never in high school. Like, I was never a math person,
I think we had algebra 2 together.
That's the one class I failed my entire life.
Really?
I'm still not a math person.
Yeah, like algebra 2 as juniors. It's like you should be taking calc or pre-calc or trig, bien burro. But and this is kind of goes back to what I said is who you hang out with, right? The crowd that I would hang out with wasn't the brightest crowd. They're not bad people, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't someone that like pushed me. I wanted to be like them. So in high school, like I didn't do well at all in math, and it wasn't until I kind of got rid of that crowd, those friends, lost those friends, stopped hanging out with them in college, and I said, you know what? I said to myself one day, because one of my older cousins is a civil engineer as well, and I'm like, why is it that he can be a civil engineer and I can't? Why? Like, what is, like, we're not any different.
Yeah.
There's nothing, like, how come he can do it and I can't? And then I said to myself, I'm like, all right, well, do I put in the time for it? I'm like, no. Do I study? No. So it's like, okay, well, duh, that's why you're not a math person. So then I started paying attention and studying, and instead of going out on Friday nights, like I would hang out at Starbucks and Coffee Bean. That was my jam back then, and I started seeing results, like in trig. And I remember, like, my first test, I got like an 88. And I was like, whoa, like, that's me? That's me? So, point being is that, hanging out with the right people, it makes a big difference, right? Yes. But even as, when I was in college, I was driven, and there was something about becoming an engineer, and I always wanted to pursue that, right? In college, I didn't really know what kind of engineering. I just knew it was going to be engineering, right? Later, like my third year at VC, Ventura College, that's when I said, you know what, I like civil, right? I like dealing with, like, streets and bridges and all the stuff you see out, in the street, So I saw that, and I was introduced to that branch of engineering. So I kind of became fascinated with it, and I liked it, and I wanted to pursue it. But the restaurant business was still there, Like, I was hoping it would be gone, but it was, like, still there. And, during Ventura College, I would have games and all this stuff, and I would go to work right after that. Like, so I would finish my baseball game, and then I would go to work, And there was days where I remember, like, I would have a game in the morning, and right after my game, I would go bust like a double shift, at the restaurant. But I enjoyed it. Like, I enjoyed, being social with people in the restaurant business, because if you're not social, or, like, being in the restaurant business is not for anyone, right? You've got to deal with all sorts of personalities, right? Like, you don't know what, someone coming in through your door has gone through, right? Yeah. Whether they lost someone, whether whatever reason, right? You don't know their mood, so you have to adapt to those type of people, right? You adapt based on their body language, how they speak to you. So I always found myself enjoying that. Like, I enjoy talking to people, As a matter of fact, the first time I was introduced to engineering, where I landed an internship while I was working at my dad's restaurant, was through a customer.
Really?
He's the one that opened the door for me.
Oh.
Yeah, he opened the door for me because once I had that internship under my belt, I was like golden everywhere. Like, I was getting internship interviews left and right. They're like, wow, you have this experience? Like, come over here, So my first internship was for the County of Santa Barbara. I did that for like 3 summers, and then the city of Goleta was like, "Hey, come over," you know. So I met through him. I met everyone, and they're like, "Oh, so we heard you have a family business, you know, restaurant." I'm like, "Yeah," and you know, just talks, and people really enjoyed that about me, and they enjoyed that. You know, engineers have this, you know, they're known to be like introverts or not really talkative. You know, they're not social. But they're like, "Man, you're actually an engineer. Like, why? Like, you talk. You actually talk.
You're actually
normal.
social.
You know, you're actually social." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's just, you know." So like the restaurant business has kind of just built
Balanced you too?
it's kind of built me who I am with my social skills, and but yeah, I just kind of knew I still wanted to do it. There was still something about engineering or the restaurant business. You know, when I moved to Cal Poly Pomona on the weekends or Thursdays, you know, I would my class schedule would be around my work schedule at the restaurant. So I would schedule all my classes like Monday to Thursdays. Thursday nights I would leave, I would come back home, and then I would work Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then I did that for like 3 years. I would drive back to So yeah, it's kind of, you know, always been there. I always kind of knew, and I thought it was gonna go away, but it just like no.
So cool though.
Yeah.
That just speaks to your passion.
Yeah, and that's really it. You know, it's really what it is. It's you know, my wife just actually asked me this like 2 nights ago. She was like, "Do you actually enjoy the restaurant business?" I'm like, "Pfft, are you kidding me? I love it." You know, and she was like, "Man, because you know, when I'm home, I'll find any excuse to come here." You know, I'm like, "Oh, I forgot to take out the mail, you know, so I gotta go," you know, or I don't know if I left the dishwasher on. Let me go double check, you know. But yeah, it's just it's there's a passion, you know,
Yeah.
and I'm just like drawn to it, you know.
And I think when it's something that you're passionate about, it doesn't feel like work. It feels like you're in alignment with what your path is, right?
Right. It doesn't feel like a job, you know. It feels more like I don't know. I mean, to me, I know it doesn't feel like a job. You know, it feels more like I don't know, something that I enjoy doing.
I get to do this.
Like I get to do this. I'm very fortunate. You know, I get to go and enjoy this.
Yeah.
You know, because you know I've had jobs in the past where I've had like, you know, I've been miserable because of like bosses, you know, and you know, having a miserable boss, like, man, you're gonna be miserable.
Yeah.
You know, going to work, driving there, thinking that you have to deal with this person, you know, it just makes it very tough.
Yeah.
And I'm just very lucky to, you know, be able to call this my job, you know. So
How do you find balance with being able to do both? Be, you know, a husband, a dad, a brother, a son. Like how Jorge? Like I
It's
always
funny.
like.
This is everyone always asks me this. You know, people who know me, they're like, "How do you do it? How do you do it? How do you do it?" And I always say, you know what? Well, there's a will, there's a way. You know, like I've got my schedule down, where you know I'm very lucky. I can do some of my civil engineering work remote. You know, if you think about it, all we do is really we're on a computer. You know, so I could be, you know, across the world and I can still get my job done. You know, that's one thing about being an engineer is we're very lucky we can do that type of work. But you know, I've come to find a balance, and honestly, everything kind of changed ever since COVID, right? That's kind of what opened the doors for remote work,
Yeah.
right? And okay, so so you know, when I was working remote and I was getting my work, doing my work, whatever, you know, I was saying like, man, like I'm done with my work day. Typically, what you do in an office for 10 hours, 9 hours, like I was getting it done in like 3 hours, but that's because I was just fast. I you know, like there was no distractions really.
Yeah,
right?
you're being efficient.
Yeah, so I was just like, so I kind of caught on. I'm like, wait, if I can get my work done, then I can like have time to spend with my kids, you know. So I did that, but then COVID kind of, you know, ended. Go back to the office. Now I have a kind of a hybrid schedule. you know. So luckily, my brother and I, on the days that I'm not here, he can be here, vice versa, right? So, you know, and it's good, you know, like a couple days I'm here, like 5 days usually, 6 days sometimes. You know, I always prioritize my kids, whatever it is whether, you know, I have to leave a little early or I have someone close for me, go home so we can, you know, typically right now, my kids are into like riding bikes, scooters, you know, so try to make it to, let's go out, you know, go for a walk. And then once they're kind of down and they go to bed, sometimes I'll come back to the restaurant and finish, or I'll continue to work in my engineering job, you know, so that's kind of where I make up some of those hours, you know, that I spend with the kids. I make them up at night when they're asleep, you know, because, you know, as a parent, you don't sleep how you used to when you're single with no kids. You know, you sleep 6 hours and that's what you get. So, you know, after I'm done here like at Arts and I'm done with the kids, you know, if the kids go to bed 8 o'clock or so, then I have really like 4 hours from like 8 to midnight to get some work done. So that's kind of where, like, you know, the balance comes in.
Rest.
So I don't rest, only 6 hours. But
you know what, el que quiere puede.
yeah,
and that's
exactly. And that's the thing, you know, like you can't settle for I'm happy with this. I mean, at least for me, you know, that's just me. Some people don't like that, or, you know, they want to have a secure job, and that's totally fine. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. But I've always just been, I like being challenged. You know, if you say no, I'm gonna say yes somehow. You know, it just kind of like the way it is with my license. You know, with the restaurants, there's a couple of restaurants that kind of fell through before here. You know, a couple locations that fell through. So now it's you know, I feel like I've kind of have a good handle on the balance. Got the restaurant now. Now it's kind of like making it better, right? Let's scale it now, right? So, you know, Arts is growing, right? It's growing on the weekends here. It gets busy, you know. You know, you've seen it here. I mean, I
think you definitely brought that vision, like lo que estabas diciendo, that like Midtown was missing, because there's always a line like out the door. Parking is crazy, and that's a good thing. You made that happen. And then just seeing like everything, that how consistent you also are with social media, because that is a different ballgame.
I see your restaurant on Instagram.
Yeah, and that's another thing that takes time. So
it does.
You know, because I do my own social media for Arts. You know, but man, if it wasn't for reminders on my iPhone, I don't know what I would do, because I have reminders for everything. You know, I have reminders to post on Instagram. I have reminders to order, you know, certain things here. You know. But yeah, you know. We've been fortunate enough and lucky, and I think with a lot of, you know, hard work and grit, and, you know, we've been able to build what we have right now, you know, and you know, and obviously, you know, my brother Raul, you know, he's kind of like giving me his trust in running this, you know, social media, new recipes, cocktails, food. You know, the designer, he's like, just do it. You know, I believe you. So I'm thankful and grateful for him, because, you know, sometimes when there's, you know, partners, one partner wants this, one partner wants that, and it's like, you know, it feels like a tug of war, you know. So, you know, that's another thing, is that, you know, I'm very thankful for him for kind of just giving me his trust, you know. I
think that's beautiful, because I feel like that goes to show also the importance of having, me imagino, like good communication amongst you two, and also it speaks volumes of all the hard work your parents did, like todos los valores, todo like lo que les inculcaron. in mi opinion, you know, at least for me, is I think. Why am I getting emotional? Oh my god!
It definitely takes a village.
Yeah.
Right?
It does.
Yeah.
And I can tell, like, even the way you speak about it, that community that you
Yeah.
built, and that's what brings the people here, right? That connection.
Yeah, you know, and I think it's maybe because my mom was close to your mom, you
Yeah.
know, and we were kids from the same town, same rancho.
Yeah.
You know, my mom passed away, 20 years ago, and she was always like, whatever you do, just do really well.
Yeah.
Like pay attention, and she was always more of like, pon atención, pon atención, and and échale ganas, and she was like, they say, behind every successful man is, strong woman, right?
Yes.
And that was a prime example. Like my dad was a hard worker, right? He was the one back when we were kids working a couple jobs. She was holding down the fort at the house, making sure we had everything, taking us to our games, and then she would still go and clean houses, so she was still doing that. And I kind of just always remember just like thinking like, man, like, is this really it? Like you work so hard and, you come home late at night. My dad, my mom, she would still make dinner, and you kind of do that every day for the rest of your life. I'm like, there's more to this, there's more to than just, your job. And, seeing my dad work like two jobs, I think that's what, where the drive comes from, you always want to do better, right? They come here to this country so you can do good, get an education. But I think what what my dad did was something that was like, it's like you don't see that a lot. You see hardworking dads, and at the time, I remember thinking like, what, like a restaurant? Like, what do we have to do with restaurants, right? But my dad was always in the restaurant business since he came, here to the States. So that itself was like, to me, was like, man, like this guy's like bold. Like this guy has like, he's courageous for wanting to do that. Didn't speak English, and yet he's like buying this property with the restaurant with my other my uncles. It's like these guys are like self-driven. I think a lot of it has to do with my grandma, his mom. One of like 14 kids, and my grandma was just like, she was like a strict grandma, and she was always all about like, go work, and I think we've taken that, but scaled it at a different level, so that's the plan, and the plan is to scale arts to even bigger, because those are my goals. Is I want to be even bigger than what we are right now. When people think of brunch or breakfast in Ventura, I want them to think arts, and it's not overnight, right? It takes time. So
and I think you're a prime example of like how you started at the beginning, saying you had this vision for years ago, like years, and it still remained there.
Right.
Si tienes esa espinita o esa duda of like, what would it be if I were to just like bet on myself? Do it.
Right. Yeah. Definitely don't give up on it, because don't think that it's going to happen overnight.
And it's not going to be handed to you.
It's not going to be like, oh, here you go. Like, oh, wow, I'm well off. I need to work for the rest of my life. It's like, no way. I mean, when we first took over here, I think we only had like maybe 3 servers. And, me and my brother, when we would come and work, I mean, we were bussing. We were getting people's drinks. We were mopping. We were sweeping. We were cleaning the bathrooms. We were cleaning the toilets. We were doing everything just because we were so new. Obviously, the volume wasn't there at the time, when we were losing customers because of the changes we were making. But, as long as you kind of see beyond that, whatever it is you're chasing, you can't give up on it, because otherwise, you're never going to know if if it would have worked out or not.
Yeah.
Right. You know, had I listened to a lot of people, friends who I thought were friends at the time, were like, you're gonna get into the restaurant business right now? It is the worst time. It's the worst time to get into the restaurant business. Don't you see what's going on with the economy? And you know, there's always those people that like are gonna hold you back, or you know, they're gonna be negative, right? And you know, if I would have listened to those people, I wouldn't be where I'm at today.
Did you get a lot of that, like feedback?
Oh
like
yeah.
that? Yeah.
Oh yeah, a lot of that. Because yeah, I mean, you know, it sucks to say, but there's people who don't want to see you do good.
Yeah.
That's just the bottom line.
I agree, because I feel like it comes down to like, how could you be doing better than me if we came from the same place?
Right.
Like,
We went to school together. How is that? Like, how, you know?
Which it should be the opposite, right?
Right. Yeah, you would think.
Like, oh shit, we grew up from the same.
How do we support each other?
Yeah, I want to grow like you.
Right. And you know, it was always kind of like, I want to see you do good, but not better than me, right? And this is kind of, you know, that was kind of a lot of people, unfortunately, at the time when, you know, they found out that I was in the process of buying a restaurant. It was like, oh no, that's not good, dude. And look at, it needs so much work. You know, it needs so much work. Like, it's old. The thing is falling apart. You know, but again, like, my engineering mind was like, man, this is prime.
Yeah.
This is prime. This is like, you know, a diamond in the rough. Corner lot, Midtown Ventura, a restaurant.
Yeah.
You know, it was like a no-brainer, right? To me, it was a no-brainer. And to other people, it was like, dude, you're like losing your mind or what? You know? So, yeah, don't listen to all the negative talks, haters.
Honestly, I feel like something that I've learned through my own inner work is people will only speak and project from their own limiting beliefs of themselves.
Right. Yeah, 100%, you know. But, you know, you don't need to be surrounded by, you know, 10 people or 10 of your friends, right? It's like, man, you don't need anyone. You know, you just need a vision, a dream, and go after it, you know? And, you know, you'll realize that people start kind of like falling off, and you know, and then the right people start kind of coming together, you know. So now it's like, you know, now there's so many successful people that come here that now we're friends, and they've, you know, a lot of businesses they have here in Ventura, and you know, they're wealthy people, and it's like, would I rather have those kind of friends or the ones that, you know,
are still doing the same
thing and told me I couldn't do it?
Yeah.
You know, so kind of goes back to surrounding yourself with the right people, you know? Yeah.
I agree.
So.
Finding those supportive people.
What's that?
Finding support.
Yeah.
Support system.
Yeah, absolutely. Is finding that support system, you know?
And I also think that first gen drive is, I mean, I think a lot of us first gen, like, we just want to work really, really hard como para repayment, maybe for like our parents, of like, your sacrifice no fue en vano. Like, I'm gonna,
like, we didn't take it for granted. You know, it's like, yeah, I mean, you know, the stories I'm sure that your dad has told you and your mom from back in the day. You know, I remember like my dad, when they were kids, they didn't have like, you know, shoes. They would use like tire scrapes molded into sandals. Like, that was their shoe, you know. It was like a lazo, you know, and they would use as their clothes, they would use like costales, you know, and del maíz or del frijol, you know, they would kind of use that because, well, there's like, where do you buy clothes, you know, back then in the 60s, 70s, you know, 50s, you know, especially like our parents, you know, but yeah, and I think that's a really good point, is that you saw how hard your parents worked, that you're like, man, like, I want to make them really proud, because like, man, they worked their asses off here, you know, like they worked hard to be where they're at. So I want to do that. You know, I can't even imagine, you know, if I was just kind of a lazy dude, you know, not doing anything. It's like, man, people died to come to this country. They literally died to come to this country, and you're here, you know, just messing around, failing your classes. And it's like, dude, like, what is wrong with you? This is, people died to be here, you know? This is the country to be at, to chase your dreams, to make them happen, you know?
The land of like opportunities.
Absolutely.
Or, you know?
Absolutely.
I always remember a specific time I was going to class in Oxnard College, and there's like the train tracks right there, and I thought, I don't want to go to class. Like, I want to ditch. And I remember thinking, your parents did not cross so that you could ditch class.
Right.
I
Yeah.
got my ass to class, but it's like so funny how those instances
Yeah.
pop into your head at the most. For me, that was so random. I was like,
Yeah.
I guess kind of like deep right. I was at the train tracks. I was
You're
at
so
cross
close
street.
to-
Yeah.
But yeah, I
To
was
get in the way.
like, get your ass to class. So I went to
Yeah.
class. But
Pon
yeah,
atención.
it's
Yeah.
that thing in the back of your head,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, that.
Because you're conscious about it.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. I think we're all conscious about the sacrifices they took. You know, and they had to make to be where we're at today. Where it's like, you know, man. I'm gonna ditch class and not pay attention, and like, what are my parents gonna think? You know? And I always, like you said, there's always kind of like, that's kind of behind your head. It's like, wait, what am I doing? Like, why am I gonna do that? You know? So there's always that little voice, right? It's just like, don't do it. The bad devil, or the bad angel, the good angel, whatever, bad devil, good devil. You know, and it's very easy to get distracted or sidetracked, or just say, nah, you know, I'm good, I'm not gonna do this anymore, and you know, and be in a comfortable zone. And man, when you're in a comfort zone, it is dangerous.
I agree.
It is so dangerous, because this is where you don't want to take risks, or you know, push your limits where you're in a comfort zone.
Because that's where you could get stuck and
Yeah,
stagnant.
you can get stuck, you know, and that's one of the reasons why. Well, another reason why I think that drive to open up a restaurant was even like, you know, it was just very passionate. I remember thinking to myself, after I had gotten my license as an engineer, I wanted to go on vacation, and then I don't know, I was maybe 25 or something like that, and I was asking for vacation, right? And I wanted to go for like, I don't know, I think it was like 3 weeks. Like, oh no, you only get 2 weeks, you know? I'm like, what? I'm like, I just got my license. I've worked, you know, so hard for this, and you're gonna tell me I can't do this? You know? And you know, that was kind of like, all right, it was kind of like the light bulb was like, all right, like, you got to do something else.
Yeah.
Like, you can't be living like, hey, can you sign my time card here? It's like, no, right?
Yeah.
And that was kind of always like in the back of my head, like, I want to be able to take time off when I want, you know? It's not that, you know, I wanted to prove a point. It was more of like, this is being in the comfort zone. Like, oh, next year you get another hour of vacation time. You get an accrual of 3 hours per pay period. It's like, and there I am thinking, like, you know, with my Excel sheets, I'm like, wait, that means when I'm 38, I can take 4 weeks. I'm like, okay, that's not gonna work.
Yeah.
You know, so being in the comfort zone is really, really dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I think something that I always tell my clients is, si te asusta, or it makes you anxious or scared, that's not a bad thing.
It's a good thing. That means
like,
you're onto something.
Yes, and that
Yeah.
means that it's important for you. Like,
Right.
go with the feeling, feel the feeling. Don't let that feeling, though, stop you. Because I think oftentimes those feelings stop people from actually
100%.
pushing through. And sometimes you could be your own blockage.
Yeah, you can be your own worst enemy, right? I mean, had I backed out when they, you know, when they told me, all right, you know, open up a restaurant, this is what you got to pay right now, or, you know, your house is on the line, we're gonna use it as collateral, and something ever goes wrong, we're gonna use your house and we're gonna take it from you. It's like, if I would have been scared and said no, then I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
You know. So you can't be afraid of that, you know, but you got to stay true to yourself and
To your dreams and
to your
goals.
dreams. You got to, you know, if you have that vision, you got to pursue it. You know, don't give up on it.
¿Cómo vas? Scared. No, how does it go the same? My husband says it all the time. Scared money.
Don't make real money.
Yeah.
Scared money don't make real money. That's, you know, the bigger the risk, the bigger the reward.
Yes.
And those are things I live by.
Yeah.
Especially as a business owner, right? Being in here in Midtown Ventura as a business owner, you're competing with other people, right? Like you're competing a lot. So it's not like I can just go to my 9-to-5 job and I'm like, I'm good. I don't have to worry about anything. I'm off. I'm completely unplugged. Like, no, here it's like
it never stops.
It never stops. Like I'm working my mind's working like 24/7, Just yesterday, I was on the road, I was commuting, and I'm like, all right, I was already thinking of my summer cocktails, right? So it's like, I'm always like, all right, what's next? What's next? Because if you kind of just stay stagnant, then your business is going to be stagnant.
Yes.
But if you're innovative, you're constantly changing things up, changing the menu, new cocktails, whatever it is, and people like that.
That's probably the funnest part, right? Like,
yes, it is, but
stressful.
no, gotta look out for the panza, It's like
So you come up with like the food ideas and all of that too?
So all the food, like the new food ideas that we've brought here has been me and my wife, and this is why I say, like my brother has been awesome because he's like, what you got? Show me. If it's good, it goes on the menu. So it's kind of like, will it pass the test? I'm like, all right, here you go, judge. Is it good? Pasa o no pasa? And he's really enjoyed everything.
What I think was very creative of you guys. I don't know if you or Yesenia came up with it. Yesenia's his wife. The Mexican eggs.
Eggs Benedict?
Yes.
Yeah. So that was her idea, right? So some of the most popular dishes have been her ideas, right? And I think this is where we complement each other because she does it in the house, right? And I'm like, okay, but I can't do it that way in a restaurant because it's high volume, right? So then I come here, then I put it to the test, and I coordinate with my cooks, and I'm like, how do we do it so it can be produced in like mass volume, right?
Yeah.
So like she came up with a spicy Mexican eggs Benedict, right? The avocado toast, the pan dulce French toast, right? The pan dulce is like one of my favorites. The fried chicken and waffle with a Korean sauce, So she did all these, and I don't know how much money she spent because we screwed up a lot of times, and there was a lot of recipes that were not good. But with time, it's an investment. We fine tuned it, right? So. When she was telling me this is how you make the gochujang sauce for the chicken and waffle, I'm like, okay, I can technically get away without using this ingredient because it doesn't make a big difference. Come over here, perfect it, and then make it in a, produce in mass production, right? Because when we do it at the house, we do it for like a single portion. So a lot of this has been, a lot of like dishes have been like, that's all her, she's kind of got her name on it, and she kind of puts things together, and then I come over here, perfect it, and kind of do it together like that.
Which I think that also is the importance of having, again, surrounding yourself with good people, but a partner who believes in you, uplifts you, and the importance of choosing a good partner.
Right? Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of tying it a little bit back to therapy or like relationships, like the importance
having a good relationship, and it hasn't been easy with us, that's for sure, because I'm here most of the time, and then when I go home, sometimes it's too late, sometimes it's too late to take the kids on a bike ride, or it's cold, so there's always going to be ups and downs, but really at the end of the day, it's like you work together for, there's a goal, right? And it's like, okay, that whatever happened, let's move forward. You move forward. You don't dwell on the past.
Yeah.
Right. There's no perfect relationship. That's for sure. But yeah, the only thing I would say is if it wasn't for her, like a lot of these dishes wouldn't be on the menu.
Her creativeness, her ability to have a vision too, because honestly, I've tried all of them, and they're amazing. They
Does
really.
she have a background in cooking, or
No way. I mean,
she just has it?
She just has it. Like, so we're from the same town, and her in Mexico, and so her family, they're all really good cooks, right? They all make really good salsas, good enchiladas. So they've kind of have that down, right? But they've got that like el sazon, right? There's the palate. She has that. So and me and her are like that. We have that, except I don't cook as much as she does, right? But the other day she was like, hey, like, you know, you should start putting like a chilito con carne on the weekends, you know? And like, I'm like, all right, let's do it, you know? And she made it, and I'm like, oh my God, it's like so good, you know? Like, Jesus, you know? But there's a point where you gotta like balance, right? There's this thing called menu engineering. Just because something's good doesn't mean I'm gonna put it, because then if it doesn't rotate as much, then it's gonna go bad, right? You kind of want to share something where it can be used for other items, right?
I see.
So, kind of like the chicharrones here. They're awesome. They're super good, right? We use them for tacos, the sopes, you know, and for other plates, right? Same with like, you know, some of our salsas. We use them in like 3 different plates, right? So she has the creation down, right? The recipe down. She helps with that, and then I just kind of like make sure it's, you know, I make sure it's doable, and it makes it's feasible, right?
Translate to restaurant.
Right. Yeah. I'm not gonna, just because she did some awesome enchiladas, I'm not gonna put a menu item, you know, because then, you know, I've got to plan my menu around certain proteins, right, where you can kind of use things. But yeah, she's a great cook. She's definitely, you know, involved. She's got her hands in here, you know. So that's a lot of these items have Yesenia all over it.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome.
A man of many hats.
Yeah. That's you know, but I enjoy it.
You can tell,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
Like how you describe like the detail and everything. Like you
Yeah.
guys
Yeah.
have to put.
Yeah, it's it really just started with kind of a vision, right? A dream, a vision, and then everything just sort of slowly started unfolding. You know, I remember when you know, we were here and we first took over, and I saw this place, and I'm like, man, this needs a lot of work, but it can be done. You know, and I met my designer, my interior designer, because she was part of a team that branded this really famous restaurant in Palm Springs, or not famous, but like a new restaurant, well-known restaurant in Palm Springs. And I'm like, man, who did this restaurant? Her name came up, and then I'm like, yo, like, you know, you interested in the project? And she's not local, she's from New York. She's like, well, like, I can help you, but like, I'm from New York, you know. And I'm like, let's you know, let's do it. Like, you know, she started giving me all the rundown on, you know, on businesses and restaurants, you know, because whenever there's something that happens, a style, trend, it happens in New York first, right? Anything that happens,
That's true.
a big city,
Yeah.
right? That's why it's, you know, the #1 city in the world, right? People want to go there. They want fashion, technology, everything's there, right? Everything starts there, you know. When like Uber started over there.
Yeah.
A lot of things happen over there first, and then they, you know, they slowly come to the West Coast, you know. Then LA follows, and then Ventura's like 5-10 years behind, right? Like, we'll get there, right? So you know, I told him, like, look, we have a little cafe, you know. And she was like, that's like, you know, and back then we were like, man, we're gonna make it like super nice, super like, you know, like a farmhouse design, like all white. And she's like, stop, that is out. Different. She's like, that is out. She's like, that was just like a trend, you know. She's like, there's nothing like working with what you have and just kind of making it better.
Yeah.
You know, adding a little bit of makeup. And then I heard this from someone a long time ago, and and it wasn't from her. It was from someone I met who was in photography, and she had told me, like history repeats itself, right? So,
so true.
yeah, it's like so true with like styles.
Fashion,
I mean, look at fashion nowadays,
Yeah.
right? It's like
Yeah.
what we were
Kids are
wearing,
literally
like
wearing
what we were wearing.
Yes.
And back then it was kind of like okay, but now it's like super cool, right? Like baggy pants, Ben Davis, Dickies. You see girls dressed like this, So it
rotates.
Yeah, it rotates, right? And then, and I remember thinking to myself, there's nothing better than like something you can connect to, right? So what I mean by that is like, if you went through it in the past and you're gonna want to like do it again, right? It's like there's like that nostalgic feeling that it's like you can relate to, you can connect to. So here it's like it's a diner from like the 50s, 60s, right? So people can relate like, oh, like a diner, like it's comfort. But now, so what we did was like, okay, we're just gonna make it a little nicer, right? But still, still with that feeling, the warm colors, the banquettes, the blinds, right?
Yeah.
So, and this is where my designer was like, you have to stick to this. Like, that's cool. Just, making the diner, like, you can make improvements to it, but you don't want to get away from that diner feeling,
Yeah.
So, and we've been able to, kind of retain some of the old customers. So a lot of the old customers came back after we rebranded, and they said, wow, you guys really changed it up. And they're like, wow, this is actually pretty good. Before when they kind of gave up on us, I remember telling someone, like, you haven't even given us a chance of serving you. You walked in, you see changes, and you walk out. Like, you haven't given me the chance. And we'll, from time to time, we'll get people who are like, wow, like, you guys have done an amazing job, and that's awesome, because these are people who initially didn't believe in you, who gave you a 1-star Yelp review, and now they updated to a 5-star, and now they've almost become like regulars, like family, So it's definitely something that has taken time to be, to build, and but it hasn't been easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, imagino, I mean, anything worth having and, is never always, it's never easy, and
No
it
way.
takes a lot of sacrifice. And, I think also being able to not be afraid to take up space,
Right.
meaning like, even if there's not a lot of people that look like you, sound like you, or background like you, or, like, don't be afraid to start something new or bring that new idea, because you could be the one that starts the trend, or you could be the one that starts something new.
Right. Ask questions. That's what I tell people is ask questions.
Yeah.
Especially here when new employees start, I'm like, ask questions. Don't be afraid. Like, you have to ask questions.
do.
You're not gonna know stuff. And it's kind of same. You kind of you apply this to life, right? It's like, when you know something, what are you gonna do? You're not gonna sit there.
You're new at it. And
You're
I
new
tell
at
my
it.
clients that too when they're scared of a new job. I'm like, that's your excuse that you're new. Like,
Right.
you literally don't know how to do
Right.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly. You don't know, but I'm gonna guide you. I'm gonna help you.
And that actually shows interest in wanting to learn something new, because you're curious. There's
Right.
that, like, am I doing it right?
Right.
Like I want to make sure that I'm like up to par with whatever my expectation or my role is. Because honestly, I would be concerned if someone's not asking questions.
Right.
Or
Yeah. And sometimes, I know that when you go into a new field, whatever it is, you may not even know what questions to ask because you're so new,
It's so true.
So sometimes you may not even know what to ask. You're like, well, I have questions, but like, I don't even know what to ask.
Yeah.
But it takes time,
And I also think it's building relationships, like something that I tell clients all the time of, don't be afraid to literally call someone. Like, you can look them up and you'll be surprised. There's more people, like, de lo que uno piensa, willing to help than people not willing to help.
Right. Yeah. You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised at the amount of random people that can help you out, you know? Like when I was kind of first starting this, I remember I would ask other friends who are business owners, I would call them up and say, hey, have you been through this? And like, oh yeah, go over here and do this and do this. And it's like, wow, like that's awesome, you know? You know, there's always people who are going to be willing to give you a hand, you know, for sure. But you have to ask questions. Otherwise, you know, you're going to be kind of like, you know, in the dark, not knowing, you know? Yeah.
Well, you know that I always have admired you and your drive and determination to anything you set your mind to, and I'm very appreciative of your time and Yesenia too, because I know that we're taking up your time with your kids. So I appreciate your time, and he is a prime example, you know, of anything you set your mind to, you could do it, and don't be afraid to try something new. Si tienen esa duda, esa espinita, honestly, it's there for a reason. Follow that path, ask questions. And I think, you know, lo más importante en mi opinión es a veces las cosas que nuestros padres nos inculcan, like for me personally, and maybe you guys can relate, is lo que a mí me dejaron de herencia y you know, what I'm the most proud of is my work ethic. I'm very proud of, like, that's something que nadie me puede quitar in my education, and, you know, do something that makes your heart feel happy and warm and that you feel personally fulfilled.
100%. Absolutely.
Any last words or any words of encouragement?
Yeah, I think you kind of, you know, hit on it is if there's something there that you're kind of, you know, doubtful, you're not too sure of, is, you know, explore it. You know, if you can see yourself doing that, but you just don't know how to start, I mean, ask questions, you know, don't be afraid to ask. You know, you're gonna fail. That's for sure.
And that's
it's gonna happen. And that's okay. It's part of it, right? You know, when I was working as an engineer in the private sector, I would see all these engineers, seniors in me, and they were just so, you know, proficient in engineering and knew everything. And I wanted more. I'm like, man, I want to be like them, you know. And they're like, oh no, it's because you're not ready yet. You're not there yet. And I'm like, dude, just let me do it. I'm like, I'm gonna fail. I'm like, it's okay. Let me fail. I'm like, let me fail. I'm like, it's okay if you make a mistake, just don't do it again, right? It's like, learn from your mistakes, you know. But you have to fail. It's part of the journey, right? There's been things here where things haven't worked out, but it's like, okay, well, you're gonna keep pushing.
And
you know,
sometimes it works out for the best.
Yeah, you know, things happen for a reason.
Yeah.
Just because, you know, one of my new plates didn't work out doesn't mean I'm gonna just dwell on it, or it's like, okay, whatever, next, right? I mean, that's kind of life, right? It's doesn't work out, peace out. I tried it. Let's go next, you know. Just because it doesn't work out the first time, it means nothing. It's like, keep trying, you know. Keep at it. Don't give up. You know, ask questions. Surround yourself with the right people. You know, it's all about your circle. You know, I'm a firm believer in, you know, if you hang out with successful people, you're gonna be successful. You know, you're gonna want to be like them. You're gonna admire them. You know.
Even right now, like listening to you, like all of this, it is really inspiring.
It is.
No, I mean, you know, and it's things that get passed down from other successful people, right?
Yeah.
And that's the whole point, is you kind of pass it down, right, for other people
to evolve and grow and pave the way.
Right. You know, the sun shines for everyone, right?
El sol sale para todos.
You know, el sol sale para todos. You know, there's enough pie for everyone, and you know, no te das a llevar nada de esta vida. You know, so share your knowledge. You know, you know, when you share more, when you help more, you get more.
Oh yeah.
And I've always thought like that. Is the more you give, you get back. You know, the more you receive. You know, and it's not like an expectation. It's not like, oh, I'm gonna do it, but
with strings attached.
No, no. It's like, you know, like, you need help. Let's help you, and you know, whatever it is I can help, then, you know, I'm willing to do it. You know, but I've always kind of seen things like that. When you help people, when you make other people look good, man, it reflects on who you are as a person. When you give credit to your team, your team members, and these are all things that are part of a successful journey, successful team.
It takes a village.
Yeah.
It takes a village, and I agree with you.
Yeah, but thank you for having me.
Thank you.
This is my first.
I know. I was going to say thank you for accepting.
Speaker over here.
Man,
Because I know
maybe I
you
should get into speaking, motivational speaking.
Honestly,
the
TED Talk.
TED Talk. Yes.
You should really.
Career.
Honestly,
See,
I think
we're gonna
you would
start
be-
right here.
Yes.
It's like when you start your design in a garage or a podcast in a garage, and then it just grows up, right? But thank you for having me.
Thank you so
Yes,
much.
Thank you
absolutely.
for accepting. And I know you had mentioned that this is your first podcast. I truly appreciate that. And I appreciate your time. And I hope that the viewers have found his story very motivating, encouraging, as we did. And once again, thank you so much, Jorge.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies.
Yes, come try the food that we talked about, the pan dulce, the cinnamon roll. You guys had a pumpkin spice
Martini, espresso martini.
Gosh, so good.
Yeah.
I need to
That's
try
seasonal.
that berry one. Yeah.
The berries and cream is delicious.
I need to try it next.
Yeah.
So come
Yes.
and visit. And once again, thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.